Yo, everybody, I got a special guest in the house today, my boy Adam Schafer from Monetizing the Podcast. And today, he's going to drop some serious heat on you guys. Business, life, and relationship hacks. So get ready. Let's get this show started. This is like a 360. The universe brought us together.
How many years? How many years now?
Bro, 17 years.
Did you do? I was before.
2007. You hired me June.
Wow.
2007. Wow. We're going on 17 years.
That's a long time, dude.
Hella long.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to tell you why I came across you in your gym, what it was meant to be. I happened at the time I was living in Salinas with an ex-girlfriend of mine. I was a trainer in the little rinky-dinky 24-hour over there. Small little hole in the wall 24-hour. I happened to be in San Jose. I wanted to get a workout in. I looked up that gym. I had heard about it. So I stopped by and looked at it. When I went in there, I was like, wow, this is a real gym. I like this place. I want to move back to San Jose. I want to be in the Bay Area. And that's when I started planning it in my head, like, I'm going to fucking move out here. I'm going to be a trainer at this gym one day. Watch this. They don't know who I am yet, but they're going to know me. And I started doing my homework, like, who's the manager, who runs things. I talked to my manager, Selena's like, hey, I'm thinking about moving back to San Jose. Like, I want to be a trainer. Who do you know over there? And I can't remember her fucking name. I've drawn a blank. But Barbara, she knew Barbara at the time, and she reached out to Barbara. Then in turn reached out to you. And then, and then we made it happen. Lined up an interview. You spoke to me, and I told you everything. Like, hey, bro, I went to prison. I just got out 2 years ago. Hopefully this dude doesn't judge me. I don't know. Back then it was a little different. Yeah. And you're like, nah, I don't give a shit. I go, I'm fully tatted. I don't give a shit. Go ahead. Yep. Fill out the application. Then when I passed everything, you call me and you try to play a prank on me. Hey, bro, you sounds like you had some sexual abuse in your past. Yeah, you did that. God. I go, he's full of shit.
I don't remember that, but that's something I would totally do to you for sure.
Try to be fun. So I know he's full of shit because I don't have that in my past. I've been in prison for selling dope. But that was funny. That was cool. I was like, I knew at that point when you made that joke, like I got the job. I couldn't believe it. Back then, 24 was like turning people down for DUIs.
Yeah. It was a good time. It was a good time when we met because at that time I had already, so that was my third gym managing. And I learned a lot because I was thrusted into management by the time I was 21 years old, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing for the first few years. By the time I got to Santa Teresa, where you're talking about where we first met, I had really started to develop my leadership skills and knew what to look for in an interview versus what I was taught. Originally, we were taught looking how many national certs you have and experience and I quickly learned that that's not what made a really good trainer or an employee for that matter. It's like you're looking for a character, like someone in their personality, like what makes this person go and their attitude. And I don't know, it was pretty quick and easy for me to see that in you. Your past is your past. The way you spoke to me, the confidence you had in yourself in a place of uncertainty and knowing where you're coming from, I saw that. I saw right through that. I'm like, this guy's going to be good. I know he's going to be good. And I'd always rather have somebody who I have to kind of corral a little bit and I don't know if I was going to have to do that or not with you, then somebody I'm going to have to push and motivate and constantly tell them. And I could just tell that I wasn't going to need to do that with you. And from working with me, I really didn't manage you very much. I gave you an opportunity and you pretty much took it from there. I didn't have to do much. I never had to reprimand you for not doing your job or anything like that. I mean, you were always a solid, consistent guy who was there to do business. And that was why I think you were really successful. That's why we were really successful. So,
yeah. And I remember you telling me in the beginning, don't worry, bro, you're gonna kill it in here. Because in the beginning, you're trying to find your way. I hadn't sold much membership at first. I was still trying to learn the whole lingo of how to sell, but I knew one thing I was good at. And you said, just go talk to members. All right, so I just talked to members like, hey, how you doing? I'm Mike. You ever need my assistance or anything? I'm around. So I just kept doing that, planting my seeds. And little by little, I sold a 5-pack here, a 10-pack there. And you're like, don't worry, the big one's coming. And sure enough, I started knocking down the big ones. And before you knew it, I'm pulling in 10 grand a month. And at that time, we had the baddest team around.
Oh, yeah. That was a good team. I still, who I got connected with just the other day was Ronnie Varghese and Karan. Both reached out to me, and I haven't talked to them in a really long time. Those are all part of that crew, and was sharing with them. That was probably one of the funnest times of my life, and it was fun because I think at that point in my career, I'd figured the leadership thing out. I had hired the right people, and we had a hell of a team, man. We had a really, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but there's one of the most special things that we did that nobody in that company has ever done. was do you remember when they cut your guys' pay and they changed it? And I was really heated about the way they changed the percentage. It was no longer going to be like, we used to get paid like $1 amount per session or whatever you did. And then they started to change it to a percentage of what you sold. And it really was just a way for the company to save money. It was going to reduce basically the hourly rate. And I was so angry that you would do this to my team who didn't deserve to be cut their pay, right? And so the only way I could figure out to solve it was to allow in a company, right, where everybody has, like, it's, 24-hour fitness is like McDonald's. You go anywhere in the world and you can expect what the number one is and number two is. And so they're very uniform, right? But I actually got approval for our club to sell training at a higher rate so you guys wouldn't feel the decrease in your pay. And I don't know if you ever knew that or not, but I had to go all the way up to the founder of the company to get that approved because I was so livid that you would take, in my opinion, the best team in the entire company and you were going to change the comp plan and they were all going to suffer in a time when they were outproducing everybody. And I thought, this is such bullshit that they're doing this company-wide. They're going to affect this incredible team and cut their pay when they don't deserve that. And of course, they wouldn't let me do something weird where you guys all got just paid more than everybody else. So I had to find a way, like, how do I keep my guys and girls making the same kind of money without, breaking the rules with I got approval for us to sell personal training at a higher rate. So Santa Teresa at that time when we were all there was selling personal training more expensive than anywhere else in 24-hour fitness.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
What I did know, though, is you set some aggressive goals. Literally every month, 100,000 plus, and we would hit it. I never knew of a gym in my entire life. The little gym in Salinas that we came from, we're lucky if we sold 10 grand in training, the whole team. We're killing it. I had $10,000+ months in personal training.
I had great trainers, man. I had a great staff. I had 12 of you running around that place. That's what made my job fun and easy. It was a good time to be working in the gym industry. And everybody collabed and learned from each other. It was a really cool environment. I think back to that all the time. And still to this day, when I operate the business I do now, I try and model that culture that we had created there because it was very special time.
Yeah, it was. Everybody was hustling. I remember hustling hard. Nobody was slacking. Everybody was on top of their game, on top of their fitness. Just go-getter, man. Not being lazy, and I love that. I love the energy that we produced. Something about that gym produced a crazy amount of energy, and I loved. Yeah. But check this out. I want to go back. I want to go back to humble beginnings, bro, where you come from. I want the listeners to know where you started, the bottom of the bottom, because where you're at now, let me just tell you guys something. He's in a whole different bracket. This guy owns 2 supercars right now. So let's start from what you used to do when you were a kid or teenager to make money.
So I did come from a family. So I'm no stranger of food stamps and welfare, and we moved to 9 different houses growing up when I was a kid. My real father committed suicide when I was 7. My mom remarried into an abusive relationship. And we struggled, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there that had it way worse than I did. So it wasn't like I had it that terrible. I still had a place to live, and I still was fed. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't the easiest childhood. I was the oldest of 5 also. And we also came from a very conservative religious background, and I really struggled as a kid with the hypocrisy of what I saw, right? So, we would go to church on Sunday and pray, and my family would talk about how, important God was and all these rules that I was living by as a child. And then they'd be screaming and fighting, and cops would be there at the house, and it would just be so weird, right? And my parents would make me feel like, too, that, like, anybody who had money was evil. Like, people that had a lot of money were, money is the root of all evilness, right? We came from that camp. And I remember as a young kid, like, as I started to meet other people that were financially successful, like, it wasn't lining up. It was like, my parents are telling me that, money is the root of all evilness. And these people that have all this money, all they care about is money, and they're bad people. And that wasn't what I was finding. I was meeting these people. In fact, some of these really wealthy people that I came across as a young kid, they had good families. They weren't fighting, and the cops weren't over at their house. They weren't screaming at each other. In fact, they were very giving and loving and kind. And okay, so they weren't religious like we were, but they certainly weren't bad people. And I noticed that. And I think so at a very young age, I began to want that. And I also saw a lot of the fights and the things that happened in my house when I was younger almost always stem from money, not having. right? Like when I look back at all the crazy events that we had where cops would show up or whatever and arrest my stepdad, and it was almost always around a birthday or a holiday, and it almost always came down to my mother making my stepfather feel like a piece of shit because he couldn't provide, and then it erupted from that. And so I had this fire in me at a really young age of like, I'm not going to be this. I'm not going to be like this. I'm going to be able to take care of me, take care of my family. And so I was hustling as a kid, man. Every summer and any odd job with a relative, I would do things like anything I could to make $1, right? I was doing that really early. In my freshman year in high school, so I'm young, so I was only 14, 15 years old as a freshman. My buddy and I decided to start what I would say was my first business, right? And before that, I was, like I said, I was summers working for my dad or people I knew. Like, so I was always kind of working, even as a young kid. But high school, I'd say, was when I really started like the entrepreneur itch. And we started A&J lawn mowing service. And we thought that was so brilliant because I was Adam, he was Jason. And back then, as I date myself here, the yellow pages was how you found people. And so if you were first in the alphabet, you would be in the front. So that was the whole idea, was to get in the front of the yellow pages, although we never even made it into the yellow pages. But that was the idea. So we start this lawn mowing business. We're so young, we can't drive anywhere. So we have our moms drop us off in the rich neighborhoods, and we made flyers, and we went knocking door to door and just, trying to find people that were willing to let us cut their lawn. Now, what's cool is you've and again, something that I've found with people that have money and are wealthy, they were willing to, like, oh my God, look at these kids, these young kids that are hustling and trying to get by, and like, let me support them. And so we actually got a lot of business. Like, my buddy and I were pretty much just packed on the weekend, full of, and so I actually had pretty good money in my pocket for a poor kid because of this lawn mowing business that we did. And we ended up doing all kinds of random stuff from that. But that started the itch, was when I was that young. And then by the time I turned 16, I got my first like W-2 job where I worked for a dairy. So I was a bovine mammary extraction technician, which was I milk cows for a living. So
milk cows.
Yeah, milk cows. So I used to tell the girls, because it just sounded way better to say bovine mammary extraction technician. Like, that's what I did.
Of course.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, that must be so important. So I milked cows. I welded. I built fences, dig ditches. I mean, I did all of this kind of like manual labor. And I did it before school. So before and after. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd get up before school and I'd milk cows. And then afterwards on other days, so I had like a split shift where like some days I'd work at 4 in the morning, other days I'd work 4 at night. Anybody that knows anything about the dairy industry, cows get milked twice a day at the same time, right? So 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day, cows get milked. And so half the week I would be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and working before school. The other half of the week I'd be working after school and working till the nighttime. And that was kind of how I started the hustle when I was a young kid. And I don't think that ever left me. I think that even into young adulthood, I always had this burning desire to, not go down the same path that I watched my family go down. And I was hungry. I was ambitious. I was willing to learn. I was self-aware to know that I didn't know shit, but I was willing to latch on to anybody that knew more than me. And I was open to that, right? And this is stuff that I always try and teach, people that work for me, is that, never stop growing, never stop learning. And I had that fire early, and I just continued to latch on to people that were smarter than I was and absorb as much. I mean, this is a characteristic that I feel I saw in you when we first met. I mean, when you have it in you and you see it in somebody else, it's much easier, right? Like I had that. I felt like you had that. You have this confidence about you, yet humility at the same time, right? And I love that combo. I want to be, and I tell people that, like, you want to be ultra borderline cocky confident. At the same time, can you be super humble? And those are kind of polarizing traits. And so it takes a very special person, in my opinion, to be able to, balance both of those, to be so confident, but yet so humble and willing to learn and open and like. And I think you had that trait, right? I saw that in you, and I knew I had that trait, and I know what I can do with somebody who's got that. And so that really served me for most of my life, is having an attitude like that, confident that I can do this, I can figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out. And it's been with me since I was a kid, it's still with me today. I approach every business, everything that I've built like that. There's many things that I do today that I had no fucking idea what I was doing when I got into it, but I was willing to learn. And I think that coming from, you know, to bring it full circle from how you started this, like coming from that type of a background, it makes you resilient. And like I didn't have any, I never was that kid who's like, oh, I'm going to try this and then expect I was going to be good at it right away. Like in sports, I put a lot of sports when I was growing up, but I wasn't the best player. And I was young and I was a late bloomer. So I was always undersized, getting beat up all the time, whatever I did. But again, I'd get back up and I would bust my ass just to be okay. And so that taught me a lot too. And I approached life and business that way with the attitude of, I got no idea what I'm doing, but I'm willing to learn. And I'm confident that when most people would quit, I'm nowhere even close to that. You know, I'm so far away from quitting that I'll continue to put the work in. So it's a lot of how I grew up and who I am still today.
Crazy, because that hits deep, that story, because like you, food stamps, I'm pretty 1,000% certain we were on welfare. My parents hated it, but I'm pretty sure. I'm the oldest, as like you, of 6. Homeless as a family at one point. So I know what that's like. I know the scariness. And at an early age, also, we had Christmas misses a few times. So at an early age, I said, I'm not going to fucking be poor when I get older. Whatever it takes. I have that resilience about me too.
Yeah.
You know, there's always that doubt, fear, but I always said like, no, I'm not going to, I'm a hustler. And I've always ingrained that in me. I see my dad as a hustler, always working, always grinding to feed us. So I said, I'm going to do the same. And I always instilled that. I always played sports, so I was always active. Then I got into lifting weights early on, build confidence, because I was a skinny kid. I wasn't the biggest kid. I was a skinny kid. And it took going to prison to really humble me, because I was out of control before that. Selling drugs, partying, doing drugs, just out of control. So when I got out, and by the time I met you, I was like, it's humbling to start from the bottom again. I had all this money before I went in, lost it all. Went to prison, lost it all. I had to start from the bottom. But I knew that I had a skill set. I had a tenacity and a grind about me. And I knew I could make it. You know what I'm saying? I just need to be given a shot. I always say this to people. If you hire the right person, come out of prison, you give them the opportunity, they're going to get after it. A lot of smart dudes in there. A lot of hustlers, a lot of grinders, except they don't believe in themselves, and they're not given the opportunity to shine. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to shine. It's taken me to where I'm at now, and I still use that to this day.
You earned it, bro. I mean, you really did. I think that, and if it wasn't me, it would have been somebody else. That's how I feel. I mean, I appreciate you saying that to me, but a person with your character eventually finds somebody who is willing to give you an opportunity, and you're the type of person who does something with that opportunity, whatever. And just so happens to be, it was fitness and it was with me, and we've kept this relationship for 17 years, but I truly believe that you would have figured it out no matter what you did. And I believe that about myself too, right? Like I say things to my partners who I'm blessed to have 3 other men in my life that have built a big business or businesses with me. And I've always said to them, like, hey, if this thing doesn't work out and the whole thing burns down, like I'll start a lemonade stand with you guys. Like I've got partners like that now that are like us, and I would do anything. And I believe that we all have the same attitude of like, we'll figure it out. And so that's a really powerful, by the way, too, for listeners, maybe one of the biggest and most impactful things for me was, and I know it's cliche to say this, that you're an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but I'm such a believer in that. And it took me a while to really hack into that and learn. A big part of my leveling up was constantly leveling up my circle of people. And that's hard when you're like a young teenager in early 20s, because you tend to build relationships with people when you're in high school or college, and those people tend to stay with you forever. And a lot of times that's the reason why someone is stuck, man. They've surrounded themselves with these people who they have this loyalty to because we went through something at a certain age, or like in my case, like I attached myself, you know, the movie Good Will Hunting.
Yes.
So that was like, those were my boys. I was like that, you know, because I was this kid who had a rough, you know, upbringing. I attached myself to other kids like that, and we all had edge and grit, and we weren't afraid of anybody. What comes with that is a lot of kids that get stuck in those insecurities, get stuck in that mindset. And as you start to grow up and get older, they have these great traits of I knew that if someone ever came after me, they got my back, but then they weren't growing. They weren't leveling up. They weren't being better. And so you have this like, oh man, I have this love and this loyalty to these guys because we've been through so much as kids. But then I'm at this place in my life where it's like, I want more and I want to learn more and I want to grow and I want to be better. And those people will really drag you down if you're spending a lot of time with them. And so as I started to piece this together and surround myself around people that were doing better than I was in all aspects, not just financially, spiritually, mentally, physically, like attaching myself to somebody who has attributes that I want or that I want to learn. And I started to notice like, oh, wow, it's this crazy law of average thing. Like if I'm in a room of 5 and I'm the loser, I'm the one who's not doing much, like I'll eventually pull up to them. And then at one point, if I do a really good job, I'll be at the same level. Then it's time to level up again and find another circle of people. And that doesn't mean that those people are no longer my friends. It's just the way I choose to spend my time. And I evaluate this still to this day. Like I got a lot of friends and acquaintances and people that I go way back with, but I tend to spend most of my time with those people that are pushing me to be a better version and of myself, right? And when you got that, that's a powerful thing to latch onto, and it should never stop. You should always be evaluating that, going like, okay, like, am I the most successful, the most driven, the most fit, the most spiritually connected like person of my group? And if I am, I'm in the wrong group, and I need to be spending time in another group or adding people to my circle that are doing things. And that takes a lot of humility, right? You got to be okay with being the shit butt. You got to be okay with not being the smartest person. And people don't like that. People like to feel like, in fact, a lot of people attach themselves in relationships like this. They want to be the smart one. This is a challenge I had in my 20s. I always dated women that I could be the teacher. I was the dad, right? I'd find all the girls with daddy issues. I would be the dad, and I would teach her and show her the ropes, and those relationships always end up crashing. And it's like, that's my own bullshit, like, because I wanted to feel smart versus finding a woman who was at my level or higher that would bring me up or continue to elevate me. Like, man, I tell you what, between choosing the right partner and evaluating the 5 people you spend the most time with, that may be some of the most important things that you could ever learn to get good at, because it'll greatly impact the success of your life for sure.
You guys better take note. He just dropped you some fucking gems, because I was the same way. We grew up similar. I grew up in the streets, gang culture, a lot of violence, a lot of shit growing up. But I always knew I wanted more. I knew I didn't want to be those dudes, because the kind of guys I grew up with, they're just fucking small-minded, stuck in their neighborhood, and this is all they know, and this is their hood, and this is their life. I knew I wanted better than that. I was like, no way, I don't want to be stuck in this lifestyle. I knew I wanted better. I didn't know what I wanted in life, but I always know I wanted to be successful. I would purposely drive downtown to San Francisco on the business, the financial district, just to kind of open up my mind, spark my mind. I see the business people, business women, business dudes, and like, I want some throw more out of my life. I just didn't know what I wanted. So I always knew your network is your net worth. So if you hang out with richer dudes, I always make sure I always had like richer friends or friends who are more of a prestige than me. If I know if I hang around them, something's gonna rub off. I'm gonna get there somehow. Something's gonna motivate me, inspire me, but I'm gonna get there. And I like that advice you just gave the listeners. So hopefully they're taking gems on that, man.
Huge. I mean, I attribute a lot of that. I didn't come from a place of privilege. I didn't have a father figure in my life. I didn't have a lot of smart people or family members showing me the ropes. Like, in my family, I've made it well beyond anybody that ever has. And I didn't have a lot of that mentorship. And so I had to seek it out. I had to go find it. And like I said, that's the hardest part for those that are listening. And I know what it's like to have loyalty to people. And I tell people I get, after I talk about some of this, people will reach out and be like, well, how do you break up with those friends? Or it's like, you don't break up, you just make your time for these other people that are going to help you grow and just naturally follow. By the way, it's the same way I coach nutrition, right? So yeah. As a young trainer, I used to tell people, you can't have this, you can't have that. Here's the foods that you need to eat. Like, this is your diet. And then, the clients are like, yeah, my trainer said I can't have this, I can't have that. Well, we're rebellious by nature. And so there's a much better way to create better behaviors and so on. So instead of telling a client, you can't have these things, I'm going to tell them to go after things. So I'm going to say, hey, all I care about, I'm not going to tell you can't have this, you can't have that. I want you to hit your protein intake. Go hit your protein intake every single day. That's all. And they'll be like, what? Wait, I can. What about McDonald's? Or I've said, we're not even there yet. All I want you to focus on, I'm not going to tell you can't have that. Yes. Just do me this. Go hit that. And what you find is going after that much protein, it just naturally starts to weed out all the garbage without telling them they can't have that. It's like the same strategy with people. Instead of saying you can't hang out with those friends you have a lot of love for, just start scheduling stuff with people that are elevating you, that are growing, and that it'll just slowly fall off. And then you don't have to have this breakup conversation of like, hey, we can't be friends anymore because you're not growing enough or you're not good. Like, you don't need to do that. I mean, it's okay to have loyalty to people that were a part of your life and they played a very significant role. I still talk to those people. I just don't spend very much time with them. I spend most of my time with people that are stretching me, that are growing me, that are challenging me to be a better version of myself. Stuff, people that I can learn from, right? When we have conversation, I'm like, I want to walk away and go like, oh, fuck yeah, I got something from that. Like that, and you have to learn to do that, is evaluate. If you go 5 days in a row and you can't say you learned something from somebody that you are definitely hanging out with the wrong people. Like, you should be able to have in 5 days enough conversations where almost every day you walk away and you're like, oh shit, that was a gym. Like, oh, that's good right there. Let me add that. Okay, that's. And if you're not, man, the longer you wait to figure out this hack, the further behind you get. And the sooner you figure this hack out, the quicker you'll get there. And it's literally like that. And you just, and then it's just time, work, effort, taking the knowledge that gets dropped on you, applying it, falling on your face, getting back up, applying it again. Oh shit, I figured this out. Okay, now that's mine. Okay, next thing. And you keep playing that game. And then before you know it, you're the old wise guy. You know?
My wife says it's failing forward.
Yes.
People quit too damn easy. They fall. Like, say, for instance, like you say, you start a nutrition program and they don't get it right away. They don't get it in the first 2 days, 3 days, a week, and then I quit. No, just keep going. Because you keep going, then you're like, a light bulb goes like, oh, yeah, this is getting easier. Oh, this ain't that hard to track macros. It just gets simpler. Same thing in business. You keep learning. You're learning. You fail. You get back up. You learn. You keep applying it. Everything in life is repetitions. Repetitions is everything. A friend of mine said repetitions is your reputation. And that's so true. Like, getting up and doing the same shit over and over. Yes, it's boring. Yes, it's tedious. Yes, it sucks. But guess what? After a while, you got it. You're rolling. You're flowing. You're like, damn, I got this. I'm moving. Look at this. You're moving that fucking pendulum. You're like, okay, now it's going. But society today, man, you guys are just quitters, man. You fall flat on your face and you stay there, and then you feel sorry for yourself. Whoa, me. Especially men these days. Yeah. They're so, like, in the little pity parties. It's pathetic. Like, what are we doing? You're a man.
Yeah.
Get up.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
There's a lot of things going into that. I think that, social media has changed our culture. I think that, and there's some parallels here to what you're talking about with, business and success. And then also like even like clients and personal training, like, social media has a really distorted reality for a lot of young people, right? So if you're, under 30 years old and you pretty much grew up with the iPhone, you look and you look at your feed, right, of people you follow and you're connected to, like, you could really distort reality for you. Yeah, because you follow bodies that you like. You follow people that are, you're following all these things, and you start to believe that that's everybody else, that's the majority. And then if you're not there right now, that you're this big failure. And it's like, I remember this in the gym, like when I'd get somebody who was discouraged like that was really overweight, and they're just like so beat up and like, oh my God, I'm such a loser, I'm so this. I'd be like, I'd stand them up, like stand up in the gym, look around. How many ripped people do you actually see? Like, you could be, and by the way, that's a self-selection bias there. There's a gym. These are all already people that are into fitness, yet it's full, and maybe you can count on one hand, maybe you can count 3 to 5 ripped people, like really like fit like you. Like when you're in the gym, you're probably normally one of, if not the most ripped guy in the gym. So here it's like, and that's the same thing with like, success. Like you see these kids, they see these young guys driving, the Logan Pauls and these kids, they got the Ferraris and jets and all stuff like that. And they're like, they see where they're at in their life, they're hustling 2 jobs and they're busting their ass at work and studying and trying to get educated. And they're like, oh my God, I don't have a private jet yet. I don't have my Lambo yet. It's like, dude, it ain't supposed to happen like that. And that's not reality. That's like the 0.5% is not even that, makes it like that, or gets lucky at that age to do that. And so I think that's done that. I think it's distorted a lot of these young kids that are coming up. They think that it's supposed to be like this over. They think they're going to try something, and then it's like, oh. And then if they try it and it doesn't work out, like, oh, that's not it. I got to try something else. And then it's just like this game of like trying a bunch of things, hoping to win the lotto each time. And it's like, man, that's not the real successful people I've met. And I remember reading this actually one time. This was a very impactful moment for me. I don't remember what book it was, but I was reading a book and it was talking about millionaires. Back then, $1 million was actually a lot of money, right? 20-something years ago. And they're talking about millionaires. The average millionaire has failed 9 times before they made their first million. And I remember reading that, and I'm like 22, 23 at that time. I've like tried maybe 1 or 2 businesses, and I'm working for this company. And I was like, oh, fuck. The average millionaire has failed at least 9 times. I've only failed like 2 times right now. And so then I had this whole new mindset of like, I need to go fail. I got to hurry up and go fail 9 times. I need to go apply myself, try things, and then fail. And because if the average millionaires and that, there's probably some that took 15 or 20. Like, so I might have to get to 15 or 20 before I get this. And so my attitude was, I got to go out there and try as much and work as hard as I can and realize that I'm probably going to fail at least 9 times if I'm going to be this millionaire. I just think that the culture is different now. It's this, everything is, instant gratification, and they think it's going to happen overnight. And so I think that's what turns them into the attitude you were mocking, right? This like, pussy, give up, it's soft. And I think a lot of that is because they have a very distorted reality, and it's just really not like that. Life is fucking hard. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. Most people give up. You're not going to probably get it on the 1st or the 5th or the 10th time. And so you got to keep applying yourself. And I think we've lost that culture. And I blame a lot of social media on, the weak generation today. And I also want to back up that not all of them are. I've been blessed to have a lot of young guys and girls work for me. And there's still some of us out there. There's still some of the young blood that's out there that has got that same edge that you have. You seem to see less of them, I guess, because we hear so much of the noise on social media.
Damn, you just dropped a lot of good gems right there. I had a guest on here, shout out Phil Bahol, fucking 31-year-old dude, bro, making millions, smart, said the same thing. He said, people don't see how many times I failed behind the scenes to go to where I'm at. He goes, I failed over and over and over. Because the difference is I didn't quit. He has a military background. He was a Marine or something like that. So he had that military mindset, like, fuck it, I'm going to get back up and keep on fighting, no matter how many times I fail. And like you said, too many people fail, and then they stay there, they quit. But I like the advice, keep failing. You get better.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You want a badass physique, a badass body.
Yeah.
Like, people look at me like, damn, bro, how did you do it? You're 49 years old. How do you look like this?
Yeah.
Homeboy, I started when I was 14 years old. I built my base as a kid.
No.
I was in the gyms. I come from the 90s era bodybuilding when I was 17. You know how I learned how to really get swole? I sought out the bodybuilders. I would bother them like a little fucking dog. You go up to them, eventually gain their respect, and they invited me to work out with them. These were competitive bodybuilders. By the time I was 18, benching 315, I'm right there with them. My mindset was strong. I was always, every time I wanted something, I go after it. And I keep my eyes on the prize. I don't know if it's just my ADHD brain or what the hell, but I go, just like you.
Yeah.
I just keep my eye on the prize, and I go seek out that information.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way. I'm always asking you. I'm asking my client, Mauricio, business tips. I'm always trying to learn. I'm an open book. And I think there's a lot of arrogant people or closed-minded people who don't want to learn.
Like, a lot of people aren't willing to look at themselves, right? We're so quick to blame our circumstances and blame all these outside forces versus reflecting inward. One of my favorite qualities of my wife, right? We've been together for 13 years. When I first met her, when I knew like she was the one, was she had this personality of, it's always my fault. Even to this day, like, so when people ask about our relationship and do we fight, do we disagree? It's like, of course, every couple gets into stuff, right? But it's awesome when her and I don't care what it is. It could be real serious, heated, whatever. Could have been totally my fault. I'm totally to blame. But even in a situation like that, she takes blame. She'll like what'll happen, like we're getting into something, and let's just say it's something where I fucked up, or I did something wrong, or I was the bad guy. For sure, I'm at fault, right? Everybody would say that. Her and I are getting into it over it, and then at one moment, there's this pause and break where we always have this ability to kind of like walk away, like, hey, listen, we're not getting anywhere in this conversation. Like, there's no reason for us to keep going back and forth. Like, I need my own time. You need your own time. Let's break for a bit. And when we do that, it's so crazy that when we come back, she always comes back and she starts the conversation with, let me tell you why I'm sorry for what I did wrong. And I could be totally at fault, but that's just her mindset, is that there's always something I could have done. Like, I have that. It's never like your fault, even if it is my fault. And I have that same quality. Like, it could be flipped, right? It was totally, she fucked up. She didn't do something right. She's totally to blame. When we walk away, I come back and I go, hey, you know what? Like, I'm sorry. I could have communicated to you better about how I felt or what I wanted or what I expected in that situation. And so I failed you by not doing that. So that's like having that self-awareness to believe that you're in control of all your situations and to take ownership of them like that. Man, is that a powerful, powerful tool. And for sure, what the most attractive thing I found in her, she's so growth-minded, she's so self-aware, and we've approached so much of our life and our relationship like that. And I definitely attribute all the success I've had because I've had a partner like that in life for 13 years. I mean, I've been successful for a long time, but I've had most of my success in the last 13 years. And having a badass chick that thinks like that and stretches me to think like that, talk about a hack. You're 5 people, and because you ain't gonna spend any more time when the woman you're with, right?
Pillow talk.
Yeah, she trumps. I mean, you think of you're an average of the 5 people you spend. Well, she's 4 of those 5 as far as the time that you spent with her. So if you got 5 people that you spend a lot of time with that are elevating you, but then you got a chick who's like dragging you down, she could almost cancel out 4 of those 5 good people.
Oh yeah.
And in the flip, she's so powerful that even if you have a couple shit butt friends you still hang around with, she's so rock solid that she cancels out those shitty friends. That's how important like a good partnership is. And so I've got a wife that's like that. You know, this is totally off subject, but I know you like little gems.
I love off subject. Don't worry about it. Shoot it.
Well, John Deloney is a good friend of ours. He's part of the Dave Ramsey crew and stuff like that, and brilliant psychologist. And I love sharing hacks with my friends that are married and stuff like that of things that I still keep learning. Like I got this awesome relationship. I swear to God, I have the best partner in the world, but yet we're still learning. We're still being better, right?
Yes.
So here's a cool hack that I've added to my relationship that we didn't do before I met John. And he goes, one of the most powerful things that you can do with your partner is before the day, okay, and this really plays a role in like outside the normal routine, is to ask your partner before that day starts, like, how do you expect this day to go? For example.
Elaborate.
Okay. So Katrina and I, one of the challenges we have in our relationship sometimes is that I grew up in such a different childhood than she did and a different family dynamic. So I struggle with a lot of the family stuff. Like she does a lot. Like it's a lot.
Dude, I'm the same way.
It's a lot.
My wife noticed that about. We don't do a lot of family events and dinners or whatever or togetherness. It was weird coming into that.
So you get it.
Yeah.
It's challenging. As much as I love it and I love that attribute of her.
Yes.
People like you and I have probably disconnected that. We've trained ourselves to survive without it.
Yes.
And so then when you get this partner who that's her life, it's like, how do you, okay, so this has always been like a little struggle of ours. One of these hacks of doing this is like, holy shit, this has been so powerful. So it's a Saturday. So it's a normal Saturday. We're going over to her family's for a barbecue. And a lot of times those would be the days that we would get into it. I would be like, oh my God, we're fucking there all day long and I wanted to go do this and stupid shit, just dumb shit,
of
right?
Course,
just dumb shit. And by doing this, by her looking at me and saying, hey, how do you expect this day to go? And then me sharing what I had in the picture I had in my head of how this day unfolds, you would be so surprised how many times we've gone like, oh, that's how you think this is going to go. Because I thought it was going to go like this. And then we're like, oh shit, we need to have dialogue with this. You really thought we were going to stay till 8 o'clock tonight and do that? Or you really thought that we were also going to spend the night and do that? Or you really thought that we weren't going to come back and do this other thing? Like, oh, I was totally under the impression we were just going over to do this and that. And then we're going to come here like, you were going to act, this was going to be a night that we get drunk and we drink. I thought this was going to be just like a family barbecue. Like, I didn't know we were going to party. Like, so having that dialogue, having clear understanding of how your partner thinks a day is going to go, and then boy, that's been and you can never do that too much. Like, even like today, right? Like you and Janine are here today, and I know this is a normal routine day, but you know maybe she has in her head like, hey, we're going to podcast with Adam, and then I want to go take care of this, and this, and you were thinking like, oh man, maybe I want to hang out with Adam, have lunch, and then maybe we're going to cruise the cars for a little bit. And she didn't know that was on your mind, and she had business on her mind. And then after this, you guys get into it because you didn't say that to her. But if you guys would have said first thing this morning, like, hey, hon, like, how do you expect this day to go? Well, you know, I haven't seen Adam in a long time. I might want to do this. I might do that. And she goes, oh, shit, I'm glad you said that because I thought, you know, after he was over, we were going to go do this because remember you told me we were going to do this, and you do that. And you're like, oh, shit, I didn't realize. And just that communication of how do you expect that day? Because a lot of our fights, this is all couples, stem from you playing in your head how you think it's supposed to go, and the other partner playing in their head how it's supposed to go. And because it doesn't line up, it causes a fight. But had you just communicated it, and you were aware where they're coming from and what they thought and how they wanted to play out, and even if you don't agree on it, just knowing that, you're like, oh, that makes a huge difference. And when we do this, it's so awesome because Katrina is very aware that, like, oh, I was not planning on spending all day here, right? So she knows that, and then because I've communicated that, and even though that in her head it was going to go down like that, but because we talked about it, you know, she'll come over and check up on me. She's like, hey, honey, you doing okay? Or do you want to leave anytime soon? Where she wouldn't even have done that had I not communicated how I thought the day was going to go. Fucking huge, bro. Huge. You can never do it too much. If you could literally do it every single day with your wife. I find that at least on like things that are out of the norm, like if we're doing a family event, if we're going to dinner, if we're flying, traveling, like just communicate, literally asking them, how do you see this day playing out? And then letting them say, and then letting you go like, oh, I kind of had it played out this way. And then recognizing where you guys are very different in that, and then having, oh, okay, well, maybe maybe we compromise, or maybe this is a time where I'm like, you know, last time she left really early for me, like, and she sounds like she was expecting to stay late tonight, like, and just because I now know that's her expectation and what she wants to do, and I go, even though I don't want to, I might go like, okay, well, got it. But now I'm mentally prepared for the day to go like that because we communicated that before. And you could say it as like, oh, just better communication. Like everybody knows that having good communication relationship is obvious, but that's such a small hack, like of just like practicing that. And her and I have since then practiced that. I can't tell you how many little stupid things that I know would have caused a fight had we not just said that, because we just had different pictures in our head, how it was going to play out. And just by saying that and recognizing that each partner had a different view of how the day would unfold, I now have a better understanding of where she's coming from, or vice versa. And it is mind-blowing what a hack that's been in our relationship. I know that was a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good one. I need to work on that. I'll be honest with you.
Oh, hey.
I suck because I do shit last minute and then pisses her off because I don't communicate. I suck at it. I'm not the best.
Well, that's why Janine was over there nodding her head. She's like, fuck yes, we need to do that. Yes,
Babe,
we do.
I'm going with the guys today on the car run. Boom, boom, boom. You want to go? Oh, I thought we were doing this or that. Oops. I got to get better.
Even that was a great example.
That's good. You like call me out now.
Hey, it's me too. That's we just did that recently, right? I wanted to go for a drive.
Yes.
And a drive for me could be a 4 or 5 hour thing. It could be a little half-hour thing, right?
Yeah.
And so me just simply communicating that, hey, you know what I was thinking, hon, is I'm going to probably go hit the coast, you know, go down, have lunch down there, then drive back. And she's like, oh, okay, you're going to do like a long drive. And like, okay, cool. And just doing that is crazy, man. It's been a major hack and has helped me out in our relationship. And even as good a communication as Katrina and I have, as great of a relationship I think we have, it's still leveling up, dude. Still leveling up. And
always
hanging out with people that are much smarter than I am, teaching me things like that.
And you know what's cool, too, what you just said is you married a woman who's always challenging you to grow. Same thing as me. And I get stuck in my own head, get stuck in my own ways. And for me, it's like sometimes I hate learning technology and even doing the little stupidest shit on the computer. I can't fucking stand it.
Yeah.
My brain just says, I don't have a lot of patience. I suck at that. I've gotten better. You know, I try to like take a deep breath, but my patience meter is very low. I don't know if you're the same way.
Oh, bro, I'm not only the same way. I still am that guy. I've just gotten blessed that I hire out all that. So I pay for people to take care of all that shit now because I know how stressful it's been for me. And I love that Katrina has been supportive of that because she knows that like she's definitely handles all the tech in the house and stuff, which is, you know, funny because everybody probably wouldn't realize that. I'm the guy who has a podcast, all this tech shit. I do not. I barely can turn my computer on. Bingo. But she knows that how frustrated I get with that and how much. So it's like, you know, we hire that out or she handles most of that. So it's I'm not a fan.
So you already know.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm also, you know, here's another thing too, right? So you remember Mark Baker, right?
Of course.
So Baker was one of my good friends and gave me some of the most brilliant advice I ever got in work, and it was the first like big impactful thing. So this is before you. So I'm at Capital McKees, one of the first clubs I'm managing, and I just broke a record. So we had huge sales, we crushed it, and the bosses are coming down. So regional vice president, president of fitness, and my district manager are coming into my club the next day. And I'm like excited, like just broke a record, I'm crushing. They're gonna come tell me how awesome I am. So I'm just totally pumped.
Blowing your ego.
Yeah, totally. I'm excited. I'm excited for this meeting.
Yeah.
They come down. And they pulled me in the office and they ripped my ass for like 4 hours. And they just went through, they basically audited me. You didn't highlight this. You're not getting signatures here. This is so disorganized. And they just reamed me. I was fucking devastated. I was just like, man, did that go a different way than I thought it was going to go? But again, the personality I have, later that night, I'm fucking in the back office and I'm paperwork everywhere and I'm highlighting and getting signatures and calling people and it's like 5, 6 o'clock at night, which is prime time in the gym, right? And Mark comes back and I got all my stuff on the desk. And he looks at me and goes, what the fuck are you doing? I said, oh, man, the bosses came in. They said, I'm not organized and I need to do this and do that. He said, listen to me. And he goes, oh, clears my fucking desk, throws the paper everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? He goes, listen. He goes, you're in this position at this age, at this time in your life for a reason, okay? You're good at what you do. Stop focusing on the bullshit you're not good at. Focus on what you're good at and be fucking great. And I went, pfft.
Ooh, I like that.
That hit me so heavy.
I like that.
And it gave me permission to not worry about some of the small things that I'm not good at, especially if it's taken that kind of time from me, because what I was good at was talking to people, pulling people off the floor, making my trainers better, helping close deals. And he's right. Like, if I'm spending 4 hours doing this thing that I already suck at, and it's not really helping that much. Sure, it's appeasing these bosses. Or I could find somebody else to do that for me, okay, while I go do what I'm good at. And when I'm good at something, if I work at that, I'll be great. And I like doing it along the way. So why not? And so that shifted the way I looked at everything. And still to this day, in business, like there's nothing in my business to this day, any of the companies I have, that I don't know the ins and outs of every piece. Because at one point I did it. I did it long enough to know how it needs to be ran, how hard it is, what kind of time it takes. And then as soon as I did that, I was out. I was like, okay, who can I hire and put in that position? And then I can get away from, then I can go focus on what I'm good at. Because this bullshit behind the scenes with the computer and stuff like that is not what I'm great at.
Me neither.
So what am I doing spending 2 hours here? Because me doing 2 hours negotiating a deal or working with people, that is going to pay the business back 10 times more than this bullshit. So how do I get somebody that I can insert into this position and hold them accountable for doing what I know how this needs to be done, and then I get out of here and go do the things that I need to do. And so that's been like another business hack, is learning to do that. And sometimes this is hard for solo entrepreneurs, like both Justin and Doug are this in our business. They've been very successful as solo entrepreneurs by themselves, not so much leading teams of people. And so they're very particular about having their hands in everything, and they don't want to let it go, because they take a lot of pride in how it's done. And it's like, you get him, Doug, editing, and he's just like, I don't trust anyone to edit this show like I do. No one's going to do it. And so he'll hold on to it. Problem is, it takes so much of his time, and he's such a brilliant man that I need him helping me in other things. And so some people really struggle with that. They want it to be perfect. They want it to be this way. And because they're really good at it, they're not willing to let it go. They don't realize that they're so good that their time that they're spending on this thing that is important, but it's not that important. If they were to allow somebody else to do it, and hey, understand that no one's going to care about the same way, no one's going to love your baby the way you love your baby, and that they may give you a B- when you do A+ work. That's okay, because you can take a B- on that editing because you are the negotiator, or you're the deal maker, or you're the person moving the big needle, and your 2 hours is so much more important doing these things. So that's a major business hack, is learning to be able to do that, especially in scaling, right? Like, I remember a period in my time where I had built multiple businesses up that I built to like 6 figures. Like, I could get to $100,000 like really quick, like whatever I did, didn't matter what I was doing. But I hit a wall. I couldn't get past that. And what had happened was I never was able to, at a young age, see beyond $100,000, because at that time in my life, $100,000 was a lot of money. And so I wasn't thinking, how does this operation need to work when I make $1 million or millions of dollars? And I never envisioned that. I would just push. And I used to say things like, oh, I'll worry about it when I get there. But then I'd get to like 100,000 or 150,000, and I'm tapped. I'm working 10 hours a day, and I'm being pulled in all different directions. The whole business is surrounded around me, and I'm like, fuck, how do I get beyond this? I don't know how to get beyond this. And that would happen to me until I broke through on this, and I realized, like, man, as soon as I learn something, I'm always evaluating like where my time is best spent, where am I most valuable for this company to grow and scale. And if this is not the most valuable place, I've got to find somebody else to do it. And I got to be okay that it won't be as good as how I would do it. That's all right, because there's other things in this business that need me more and that will give us more return and that will scale this business faster. And so that I had to figure that piece out. That was a big piece of going from hundreds of thousands of dollars to getting to millions of dollars. That was a big shift.
Damn, that's some good advice right there. Because like a lot of times you get stuck in your own head. We get stuck in our own ways, and then we don't see past that. And I've always seen, try to think of the bigger picture, the bigger numbers, not be afraid of it. Because someone, again, federal prison, gave me advice, asked me, what's the difference between $1 million and $10? And I try to do the whole 990 something. He goes, no, kid, zeros. That's it. It's just zeros. What are you afraid of? It's zeros. I'm like, damn. He's saying it sound easy. There was guys in there that own the government, 4 or 5 million restitution. They're like, no problem. I'll make it back. They're in the stock game, whatnot. I'm like, confidence of these dudes. And I'm thinking like, I just want to make a couple of racks. I had small mind mentality, but now I'm like, I see the bigger picture now, you know what I mean? And I want to get after it. I want to learn. And I want to surround myself with people who are more successful and not be one of those kind of guys. There's too many people in society that hate on people's success. Instead of hating, ask the guy, yo, Adam, what are you doing? I want to follow your lead. You got the blueprint. Let me learn off of you. And I've always been that way too. I've always wanted to learn because I don't know it all. I might be older than this kid that's half my age, but guess what? He might know some things I don't know. 100%. So I'm always open-minded. I'm not closed-minded. I'm not one of those old heads that are like, well, I've been on this earth longer. I know more than you. Furthest from the truth. These kids nowadays know some crazy-ass technology.
That's the day you stop growing. The day you have that attitude or that mindset that I know enough, I know more than, you say shit like that, like you're dead. You're done. You're dead in the water. And I love to go against somebody like that. I'll gobble your ass up. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. There's still tons of stuff. And there's something I can take from everybody. There's always something that you can pick up from somebody because we have so many different paths, so many different skill sets. The generation that's the cool part about this generation coming up is a lot of those kids are really savvy in areas that I'm not. And we got into a space like social media. I didn't even have a Facebook and an Instagram page or a YouTube or any of that bullshit until we started this business. I turned it all on with the intent to build the business. And had no idea about it. I mean, I had to learn and figure all that. I'm still learning, still trying to figure that shit out.
Hey, I want to tell you something crazy, though, dog, while we're on this podcast. And I want to get into it, how you got into podcasting and why you started a show. But I remember when you first started, I ain't going to blast them, but you had a lot of haters. Oh, what does he think he's doing? What is Adam in his mind put meeting, his podcast is? And what is this mass bullshit? I used to just take note, like, I already know what my boy Adam's about. I already know what he's going to do. I already know he's going to succeed because I know this dude. I know how this dude is. I know how his mind operates. I know he's a go-getter. I've seen you grow. I've seen you go from being my manager, and I remember when the company didn't want to pay your worth. I was just telling my wife, just like, they fucked up. They had a fucking excellent employee, a guy who made them a lot of money, but didn't see his worth, didn't pay him his value. So when he left, they're like, oh, they fucked up. They don't realize who they lost. They did you a favor, though. They opened up doors for you. You stay out of that comfort zone, got over here. And it kind of derailed me a little bit because once they brought in different managers and all that, I didn't vibe with these dudes. They didn't have the same drive and work ethic. I just, for me, I got out of the space because I lost the love for it. And I think I lost the love is because of the people who I was working for.
For sure.
They didn't know how to manage to save their fucking life. Yeah. They didn't know how to lead for shit. And I'm like, these dudes are leaders? These guys can't even fucking hold a candle next to me. It's just, I don't want to, at the time, I didn't want that headache of leading people. I just didn't want to manage people, but I was like, these guys ain't leaders. I can't operate on a high level.
There's an old saying that goes that people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses or managers, right? So it's like, that's almost always true. Like that will kill a culture, will kill a facility is the leader of that group. Like there's a lot of people that probably stayed at that gym for much longer because of the culture, because it was I stuck around probably longer than I should have because I liked it so much. I got offered. I remember being a young guy coming up, and I had clients that offered me twice as much money to go work for them doing something else, selling insurance or doing stuff like that, because they knew I could do well at it. But I was like, but I love this culture. I love being in the gym. I love my team. I love I really like that. Like, so it carries a lot more weight than just the dollar amount. And you're right though. They definitely did me a favor. That pushed me out. That actually happened to me twice. That happened to me in the next business with the cannabis business. Also underestimated me. We started at $0. I built that thing up to cranking out $4 million a year, and didn't think it was because of me and my partner. And so they basically did the same shit. Didn't take care of us. Didn't give what they said they were going to give to us when we did that. And I left them. That was the best thing that ever happened to me too. So I love to be underestimated.
It's the best, huh?
I love
Me too.
Yeah, I love it. I don't have any animosity.
We're underdogs.
Yeah, please do that. That's just adds fuel to the fire for me. It gives me extra reason to get up every single day and get after it. Like, I love. That's part of why I love business. I love the competitive aspect of business. I love starting from nothing and building it into something. Like, I don't think I'll ever retire. I think I'll always. I love that so much that I think I'll always have something that I'm building or working towards. I think it's the growth thing that we've been talking about.
Even me starting this, my wife pushed me to do this. I was just on the podcast together with her. She's like, you need to start interviewing people. And I was out of my comfort zone, like, fuck, what am I going to say? I don't know. I don't have no experience in interviewing people. But one thing I do know, like you always say, we're good talkers. So all we need to do is talk and tell our story. So how did you get into podcasting, man? What made you start that? Let's get into that.
So that was 10 years ago now. How crazy is that? It's actually even a little bit longer.
10 years?
Yeah, it was 11 when I was watching it, right? So back to Mark Baker.
Yeah.
Mark, so my first introduction, what is a podcast? I didn't even know what the fuck a podcast was. And when Mark lived with me, he was into politics. And so he was trying to get me into politics, and he was always sending me this stuff. And he would send me podcasts. Mark Levin, I think, was the guy who was the podcaster back then, and I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. And then that was my first introduction. So that's like 13 years ago. So now I'm aware of what the podcasting space is. This is 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago is the rise of YouTube, Instagram. This is all coming on the scene, right? And I see it. I see all that stuff coming up, and I'm aware of the podcast space. And I'm looking at MySpace because that's what I know. Not literally MySpace. MySpace meaning fitness, right? So I'm looking at the fitness industry, and I'm watching all these other industries evolve, change, and adapt to these new mediums that are coming up: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, podcast. And fitness is like trucking away at the same old shit. I mean, we're saying the same message. We're doing fitness the same way. And so I knew there was an opportunity to disrupt the space, to do something different. And we were, at that time, I was working with Justin, who's one of my co-founders and partners. I was still doing the marijuana thing, and he wanted to build an app. And he's like, I got this great idea for a fitness app. I had already built up some good money, so I was sitting on a stack of cash that I hadn't invested or done anything with it. And I said, okay, I'll finance it. You go hire all the engineers, the designers. You start building this app. I'm going to go out and build us an audience. Because obviously, even if you have the best app in the world, if you have no one to sell it to or give it to, it doesn't mean shit. In fact, there's probably lots of businesses that die every day that are really good ideas, but nobody ever found out about them. And so I knew we needed an audience. And I saw all these new mediums that were getting started. And so I looked at that, and I told Justin, I'll go figure that piece out. And I turn on Instagram, and I start trying to figure out what the hell. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like posting half naked photos of myself and cars and cool, just whatever is going to get attention. That's what I'm watching all these kids do
content.
I'm trying to figure it out. Right. And simultaneously I get connected with Sal. And at this time in my life, I've never met Sal in person. People have told me all about him because we work for the same company and we had a lot of mutual friends. The irony of this story and how we connected is really crazy, because when we finally met and we finally all talked, that it was crazy that he was getting told the same thing that I was getting told, which people that knew both Sal and I would tell me, like, you got to meet Sal. You and Sal got to link up. Like, you and Sal should do something together. I'm like, who the fuck is this Sal guy? Like, I don't know who he is, right? Like, but like several people had told me that. And when we got together, he was like, dude, it's so funny because so many people said, you got to meet Adam. You got to meet Adam. You and Adam would do this stuff together. So anyways, Sal DMs me one day, and he's actually talking to me about marijuana because I'm in marijuana at that time. And at that time, it was taboo to be a fitness guy and smoking weed. Like, that was not
big time
taboo. So it wasn't like I was announcing that shit or telling anybody, but some people that knew me knew I was in the cannabis industry. And so Sal starts DMing me, and he starts talking to me. His mother-in-law at the time is dying of cancer, and so he's doing research on like CBD and the benefits of it. And we're like going back and forth. I'm like, dude, this dude is hella smart, like really smart. Probably one of the smartest fitness guys I've ever met. And like, Annie's into cannabis and weed, and I am too. We hit it off. And so we're going back and forth about weed, not even our businesses at the time. And we're like, hey, let's all link up. I want you to meet my partner, Justin. And he's like, hey, I'm I'm working on this program. I want to get in the e-commerce space. And I'm like, that's so crazy. I'm like, I see what's going on in digital media right now. I'm trying to get into the space, messing around with Instagram. He's like, yeah, no, my buddy Doug and I, we created this program. It's digital, it's online. We're going to sell it. I'm like, let's all get together. And here's an example of, the leveling up and surrounding yourself with smart people. I'm like, I take meetings like this all the time. I have no idea. There was no like, hey, let's go build a business together. It was just, this guy's really smart. He was smarter than me, I could tell. Okay. And it sounded like he had found a partner who was really smart too. And I'm like, that's a good meeting. I have no idea what's going to come of it, but I know I want that person potentially in my life. That's worth my time. And so I'm like, let's all get together. And so we all met at my house, Justin, me, Doug, and Sal. And it was like fucking fire. Right? I think we've never met each other and all in the same room for the first time. And we went for like 4 hours.
Don't you love that, bro? When you have a meeting, it's fire like that. It's like when you first talk to somebody and just hit it off the back, like this is meant to be. Like you said, when you first met me and I met you, I was like, this motherfucker's cool, man. I like he's not judgmental. I got a feeling I'm gonna love this place. I just knew. I knew instantly like I'm gonna thrive in this place.
Just like that, right? And this is why I tell people to do this type of stuff. It's like don't pass up those because you never know. I would have never known. No. And I wasn't getting paid for that. I didn't have a plan or an idea. I just knew, hey, this guy I knew he was smarter than I was in areas around health and fitness. I know I'm in that space. This is worth my time to meet with this person and just see what happens. And sure as shit, it was fire. We were talking like crazy forever. And Doug piped up at that time and he goes, hey, we should put this on a podcast. And we're all like, and Doug and him were doing the e-commerce thing. Justin and I are building our own thing. We have no sort of like partnership. It was just like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Like I see where a podcast is going. I know it was growing and it was another medium. This conversation was awesome. I bet a lot of people probably would want to hear all the stuff that we talked about for 4 hours. Like, okay, like, what do we do? Like, is that expensive? Like, do we have to get like a record deal or a radio station? And Doug's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, I have all the equipment. You literally upload it in the software and like you can put it out for free. And we're like, what? Really?
For free?
So the next weekend, we were next door at Katrina's mom's house. We set up a bunch of, mics and blankets and stuff like that. And we recorded the very first Mind Pump episode, which is in a vault and it doesn't exist on the actual thing anymore. But we just did it. And we did it like with no plan, no idea how we were going to merge the businesses or any sort of kind of partnership dialogue. It's like what we did agree on was, hey, if we can get a lot of people listening to it, this would serve this app that Justin and I are building, and it would serve their e-commerce. And we actually didn't even think we were going to be partners. We actually just thought, hey, let's get a lot of attention. You guys can go build your business. We'll go build our business. And together we'll do this podcast and we'll use that basically as like the top of the funnel, right? To get leads.
Yes.
That was kind of the extent of the business plan.
I like that plan you had, the top of the funnel. You're already thinking ahead. That's so smart. A lot of people don't think about that. They don't even know what funnels are.
Yeah. And that was, I could tell these guys were smart too, because they all saw that. They all saw like, hey, this would be a great way to get traffic for both of what our business ideas were. And we decided to just start recording and putting it out there. And, we were a bit delusional when we first started. We probably thought that it was better than what it really was, which I think is important to kind of have that level of narcissism that you're confident that yes, I'm good. I could do this, right? Like when I listen back, I go, oh God, that was so bad and so cringe. But, we all didn't underestimate the work that was going to happen. We knew that as good as we might have thought we were, that we were obviously no Joe Rogans. And if we were ever going to compete at that level, that it was going to take a lot of reps and practice. And we all agreed that like, hey, we're just going to do this and we're going to do a lot of it and we're going to get better. And let's see if people find value in it the same way we think they will. And let's go prove that. Let's go first prove that. And then we'll figure the rest out. And so we didn't. We had no business plan. We had no contracts. We had no agreement on who's what, or are we going to merge these business or whatever. Let's just go see if we can get traction. And it was about a week or two later of releasing the episodes when I was calling Sal like crazy. He was still training clients at that time. And I'm blowing his phone up like crazy. And he keeps putting me to voicemail, blowing him up like crazy. Voicemail, motherfucker, pick up. He finally picks him. He's like, tells his client, can I step away from it? My buddy's calling me like crazy. I hope everything's okay. He called me, he's like, get on your phone. I said, get on iTunes right now. And he pulls it up. And we had made it in the new and noteworthy. So in the first,
what is that?
So in the first 8 weeks of podcasting, you have an opportunity to compete against only other podcasts that have started in the last 8 weeks. So, and only in that 8-week time can you be in this new and noteworthy. Once you get past 8 weeks, then you're in the whole pool of everybody. So in that short period of time, you're only competing against other brand new podcasts. And we actually made it to the top of the charts on new and noteworthy. And that was when we knew, like, okay, we're better than a lot of the other shit butts right now. So we're the top of the shit pile. I think we could turn this into something. And so at that point, we're like, all right, let's go all in on this. And let's just really start producing content like crazy. And again, with the attitude of, I'm a big fan, another cliche saying, right? 10,000 hours to mastery. I really believe that it takes about that long. It's taken that long for me in most things in my life that I would consider I'm pretty damn good at. And so it was like, okay, we don't know anything about podcasting or making content. Let's go do 10,000 hours and get there as soon as we can so we can actually say we're pretty good at this shit. And we started doing it. And we didn't agree on who's what in the business and what we were going to do with each other's businesses. And when we first started, again, we had intended to not even be together. And then we realized how powerful the podcast was because of the growth of it. And by the way, it wasn't like an overnight success. It was just like slow, gradual growth. And you know this because you've been doing this for a while. It's just a little bit more downloads every month, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Yep.
But it's going up. And, you know, that, so we saw that we were growing, we were getting better, right? And so we looked at each other and said, you know, neither one of us has anything that's selling. Like we had nothing that was selling the app. He had nothing that was like, they had tried to do some like sales funnels on the internet. They weren't having a lot of success. They'd sold a handful of programs. Justin and I had sold a handful of programs ourselves. We're divided. And we just all kind of looked at each other and we're like, you know, let's just put it all in the pot together. Let's just agree that we're all equal partners and we'll figure it out from there. Like we can agree that this thing right here that we're doing, there's something there. Let's just all go in on it and agree that we're all partners, and then we'll figure all the other shit out later. And everybody did. Everybody's like, let's go. And we did. And it took a year to do about 250 episodes, give or take. And we hadn't monetized. So Sal had the opportunity to sell his program. We chose not to. This is advice that I give people that are building a podcast too, is like, you can never wait too long to sell, but you definitely you could try to sell too soon. And I think when you're building a relationship with an audience, it's important that you give first. And this is just normal. So the law of reciprocation, right? Like it's so important to lead with giving to others before you ever expect anything in return. So that was our mentality was, can we go give these people so much value that they're begging for something like this? And this is a true story. So a year and a half goes by, almost a year and a half, and we hadn't sold anything yet. And this is the day that we decided to turn. And we had something to sell. We had something to sell day one, and we didn't sell. And we waited until this day because we kept asking each other. Like when it started to grow, we're like, "Hey, should we start selling the program? Should we start?" And we're, not yet, not yet, not yet. The day that we did was we came into the studio one day, and literally each guy had either an email or a DM that literally from the last time we'd seen each other, which was like 2 days before that, had somebody message them, "Can I give you money? Do you guys have a Patreon? Do you have some way I can support this business? You've helped me so much. You've changed my life. You've helped my wife and I. You've done so much for me. I want to support. How do I buy something from you guys?" Each guy had a message from in the last day, 24 hours basically, like that. And then we all looked at each other. Okay, it's time. We've now provided so much value. People are willing to just give us money. And we're not even trying to sell anything yet. And they want to just give us money because they feel like we've given so much to them in this last year and a half. And that's when we go, okay, it's time to monetize. And that's when we turned it on and said, okay, we have this workout program for sale. And it did. It sold. And it didn't sell crazy. I didn't make tens of thousands of dollars yet, but we sold quite a bit. I think we sold about 300 something units at $100 a pop. So made a decent chunk of money right out the gates and realized that we got a business here and it's time for us to quit our other jobs and our other side hustles and bury ourselves into this motherfucker and let's go build it. And it took 1 year, the very first year of monetization. So the other back half of that year, we made $400,000. The second year of monetization, so year 3 into the podcast, we made just under $1 million. And then we never looked back. And then we grew every single year. We've pretty much kind of doubled up in revenue now and built all kinds of shit after that.
I love that piece you said right there because my wife does it all the time is we create value. We give value. We give so much information. We don't hold a lot of stuff back. We give you just enough to try to do it on your own, but a lot of times people still need help. They need guidance. They don't realize that. A lot of people are at the edge of the cliff and they need help. They need to be pulled back. I can give you everything about macros. That's easy. It's numbers. But then at the end of the day, you still need a mentor or coach. So we try to create value, try to give before you ask, you got to give it out there to the
100%.
universe. I like that. You know what I'm saying? So I try to apply that too. Like give you just enough, but hey, if you want more, then go ahead. If you want to hire me, cool, no worries. If not, keep following the content. I show what I eat. I show everything, but that's a very good nugget.
It takes some time, right? The amount, because you're going to get people like this, right? There's going to be people that never buy anything from you. There's going to be people that want nothing but. And by the way, too, when we look at the business now, so we probably, I don't know, somewhere between 100 and 150 emails a day we get of like customers, right? And so we have a whole customer service team that fields all this and is talking to people all day long. And anytime I get complaints or people upset, it's always the people that didn't spend any money. It's always like and so that's just part of the game, right? It's like, and we care about every single customer, and I want to make sure everybody feels special and helped out. And it's like, and I have that. So we have a software called HubSpot that links everything, so I can see the journey that somebody's taken through my website. I can see what you read.
What's it called?
It's called HubSpot.
HubSpot.
Yeah, so
okay.
it's a big CRM system, right? So it's similar to like Salesforce and companies like that. I'm a fan of HubSpot. I'm just biased because I've been doing it for a long time. And it allows me to see the journey that someone's saying. I can see someone listen to a podcast, then they went over to my YouTube channel, they listened for 10 minutes, then they uploaded a blog, and they read a blog for 5 minutes, and they clicked over to this free thing and then this thing. I can see the whole thing. And it's wild because the people that complain are the people that just take all the free stuff, go through all your shit and stuff like that, and then they still want more. And you just have to realize that that's just part of this new game of business that we play in the social media world, is that you give a lot of really good free stuff to people, but to never let that deter you from continuing to do that, because on the other side, you have other people that appreciate that and that value that. And they're like, oh my God, like I said, those type of people that called us and said, let me give you money because I already feel like you guys have given so much in the podcast itself and all these other free things that we give. So the millions of dollars that the business makes, right? So we do well over $1 million every single month in program sales, right? And we do that from organic leads more than anything else. So I spend very little money on advertising. And the reason why is because we've found that we have to spend so much to get such a small percentage of people to convert that's cold traffic, versus if I can give you stuff for free and I've got you in my network, the conversion rate on those people are extremely high. And so all of our efforts for this entire time, this business has been spent on building free, valuable content out there, because those people are most likely, even though they're going to have some of the looky-loos and the shit butts, those are also going to become your best clients. And we really spend a lot of money and time on that. Like right now we have, 7 to 9 blogs go out every week. Every week it's just, and that's been happening for almost a decade now. So there's, thousands of pieces of content that we put out there for free. We have, probably 50 different white papers that are great free guides that we spent thousands of dollars creating and to give away for free to people that are out there. Every day there's a newsletter that's going. I mean, we have all these things that obviously we put out 5 pieces of podcast content. We put out YouTube Reels. I mean, just tons. There's a whole team of people dedicated to giving free stuff out to build this network of people that are continually getting lots of great value from us. And, all I need is that small percentage of people that appreciate that. I know I'm going to get a bunch that don't, but all I need is a small enough percentage of people that truly do appreciate that. And then those people become incredible customers and they buy everything that you sell. And when you do that, and I don't know if I forget what book it is called, Your Thousand or Your Tribe. I can't remember what it is, but and I really believe that was about the right number for us. Is once you get 1,000 really loyal people, you've got yourself a real business on your hand. 1,000 really loyal people is so much more powerful than having 10 million people follow you on Instagram or YouTube.
So true.
1,000 people who like love you, value what you do, like appreciate everything you've done for them in their life. So, and I tell entrepreneurs this because it's like in this new social media game, we get so caught up in how much attention that we have. Like, dude, you're so much better off looking at the 5 or 10 people that are paying attention to you and servicing them so much that they fucking love you and would go through a wall for you, than you are trying to attract another 1 million random people. Those 10 people will hopefully turn into 20 people, and then 100 people, and then eventually 500 people, and then 1,000. And once you got 1,000 people that you've changed their life or you've helped them in a very fundamental way, they will literally build your business with you. And you can build an entire multi-million-dollar company off of those 1,000 people if you've done that. And so instead of chasing huge numbers, go try and impact 1,000 people, and I'll show you a fucking multi-million-dollar business.
Damn, I love that shit, man. You just gave me some good advice, dog. Because, like, again, there's a lot of people on the internet. They got millions of followers that I'm looking at their engagement. I'm looking at their files. Homeboy, you bought that shit. That shit is so fake. You can't fool me. You ain't got 2 million followers with 35 posts. Get the fuck out of here. I've been on social media over 10 years, bro. I was one of the very first to hop on Instagram, thanks to my wife. Nobody was on IG. The only reason I hopped on IG because I had my 69 Camaro SEMA, and I knew I wanted to start a car page, and I'd seen a market for like, oh, I know what kind of content I want to post. I wanted to post pro-turn whips, like SEMA builds. Nobody was really doing that. It was only me, American Muscle Hair, Classics Daily, and a few others that were on there. So I said, well, I'll start with my 69 Camaro. I was at SEMA. I'm already at the top of the food chain, the best fucking car show on planet Earth. So that's how I got traction in the beginning.
I remember watching you blow it up, dude. I've watched you step by step go all the way through it. I love that, man.
So now I've transitioned to something new, and it's hard because I'm tapping into a whole new space. Everybody doesn't know me yet. They're probably, who the fuck is this Esco Elite Mindset dude? Wait a minute, who's Mike's Classics and more? But people don't know is I was a personal trainer, and I worked for one of the baddest dudes in the game. I got a lot of knowledge from him, and people don't know that about me. They don't know my background. Maybe I need to speak on it. Like, yo, you guys don't know. I've been at this a long time. Training since I was 14. Certified trainer over 20-some years. I got certified as a trainer while I was in prison. I got my cert in prison. NFPT, you know what I'm saying? Yep. And then you hired me, and that leveled me up.
Yeah. I think this also applies when people ask, like, the four founders, like, all of our strengths. The one that I think that as I bring to the table the most is my relationships. And I apply the same type of philosophy, which is ironic that it's the same one that makes the business, the sales and the program stuff so successful. Is I'll give to people, right, knowing that, 9 out of 10 are not going to reciprocate it. I know that I'm going to go out of my way to help their business out, to drop knowledge on them, to spend time with them, to help them out, to mentor them. And it's taken hours of my day to do things like this, right? Like, I will continue to choose to do that for people, knowing that 9 out of 10 probably will not reciprocate. That's okay, because the one that does has always changed something like huge for me, either personally or the business. And it's just a numbers game. It's just like, I'm going to talk to 20 people, and then I'll finally have 2 loyal people. And then I'm going to talk to another 10 people, and then I'll get 3 loyal people. And I've just been that way for a very long time in my life. And I'm now a 40-something-year-old man who has now built tons of relationships with people that I've done a lot of great things from. And now that I'm in a place where I have this big business and all these moving parts, and I have all these relationships where I've given, never asked. It's so cool that if there is something that I need and I reach out to any of these people, there's like no hesitation. It's like, oh, 100%. Absolutely, I'll do it. Where do I need to be? What do I need to do? But it all came from me giving all that first. Like, and so many people give with expecting something in return, and that doesn't come off. Like, people will see right through that. And so the same way that we treat our customers of just continuing to flood them with value, free, give, and eventually a percentage of them will reciprocate. And then the same way as in businesses or in relationships with business, I've done that with my peers. Give, and I don't expect anything in return. Eventually, a percentage of those people that I give to end up reciprocating it. And then they end up able to help me in a way that I wouldn't have been able to get that help had I not put the effort into giving like that. And that's compounding. And then it helps too. I've got a wife who lives the same way too. And us paired together and 40-something years old. Now we're at a place in our life where we've got a lot of people that are a phone call away from me impacting our lives or somebody else's life. But a lot of that's built over decades, man. It's not an overnight thing. Like, that takes a long time of doing that. And the sooner you start doing that, the more powerful it'll be as you get older, for sure.
You've always wanted to see people come up and bubble it. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So that's a good trait, because a lot of people don't want to see that. A lot of people want to be at the top, but they want to see you down here. I know quite a bit of them.
That's fear. That's fear of themselves not growing and getting better, and they want to keep you below and stuff. Like, yeah, that's not a true way to level up. I want others around me to succeed. And hey, I love seeing somebody succeed more than me, because then now you for sure are somebody I can learn from. If you're somebody that I mentored or I helped, and then you elevate beyond me, like, hey, there's definitely something I can learn from you. Like, I'm not hating on that at all. I'm excited because guess what? I know I helped you out. And so I know it'll be easy for me to ask, hey, yo, Mike, what are you doing, man? Like, I know I spit some game at you, but you're doing better than I am. What are you doing different than I am? I want to learn. Like, and so because I have that mindset, I can go to someone like you who's now surpassed whatever it is I'm doing versus the type of person who's like, yeah, I'll help you out only so much just to try and keep you below me. Like, that's weak. Scarcity.
So, man, check this out. You went from milking cows as a teenager to now you got a Porsche GT3 RS. You got a Ferrari. You got my favorite muscle car planner at the Camaro, 68 Camaro. Lots of success. What's next for you now? Because now you're killing the game, and I love it, man. I love to see people that I came up with kind of start. You weren't at the bottom, but you were at the bottom compared to where you're at now. And I love to see how you just elevated, man. I'm like, I get inspired by that. You know what I'm saying? Even with your podcast. Even my wife first told me, let's start a podcast. I was like, for what? What the fuck are we going to talk about? I was so negative about it, you know, because I came out of my suicide, at that time. Came out of a dark time, and she wanted to start something new and get me talking about it. She says, one day you better tell your story and help people. And I tell my story. I don't hold back because it could help people. A lot of people are hurting right now. So what's next for you, though, in life?
So a couple things I'm going to address there. The first one is the cars, because this was like a place of contention with my wife and I, where I got mad about the celebrating the cars. So when I bought the Ferrari, I've had the 68 Camaro for 13 or 15, no, more than 13 years. Oh, no, right around 13.
Has it been that long
Yeah,
already?
it's been almost 13 years. I've had that car.
Time flies.
Yeah, so I've had that car for a long time, right? It was well before Mind Pump because I had it when I was doing cannabis. So it was 13 years ago. So I had that for a long time. The Ferrari was the next big like car purchase, even though I've had Range Rovers and other stuff like that. But Ferrari's like another level, right? And when I bought it, my wife's family, they're a big, close family, and they celebrate everything, right? So, and I love that about her. And the family found out, right? I was kind of under the cover about it. I didn't tell anybody that I did it. I just did it. And the family was like, "Hey, let's get together on Saturday, and we want to celebrate you and do all this stuff like that." And it was about this Ferrari accomplishment. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And Katrina's like, honey, you need to stop it with your, and she was blaming like my childhood stuff. Like you've done so well, and you should be celebrated, and you need to learn to be comfortable with that, and da-da-da-da. And I said, no, that's not it at all. I said, I have nieces and nephews, and I have a son now. And maybe because I'm a father now, I think like this more. I didn't probably think this way maybe 10 years ago. I said, I don't want them to see us as a family celebrate this materialistic thing. And not because I don't fucking love it, not because I don't think it's awesome, and I hope one day they can buy a Ferrari themselves, but because it doesn't send the right message to the generation coming up on how I got there. I said, what my nieces and nephews don't know is 13 years ago, I had enough cash to go buy that car. I could have bought that car. I didn't buy that car. Instead, I chose to invest back in learning and growing. I chose to invest in real estate. I chose to invest in my businesses and invest in myself. And I resisted the temptation to want to show that I have these things. And this purchase was for me, which is why I didn't tell the family. I didn't tell anybody. I did because it was something that I had as a personal goal that I wanted really bad. And I think we're sending the wrong message by celebrating the Ferrari, because the kids don't know the delayed gratification that I had to get that. And that is what I want my son to know. I don't want my son to go, oh, my dad had a Ferrari, so one day I want to buy a Ferrari. And then he leverages himself. Or by the way, did you know this happens right now on social media? I didn't even know this was a thing. So in LA, it's a big thing. You see all these Uruses and these Ferraris with that. A lot of these guys go 4 ways on a Ferrari. And they all split the lease, right? Or they all split the payment on it, and they each get to drive it for 1 week, and then they use it to promote themselves on Instagram and social media, so they look like they're balling out of control. But they're really splitting a Ferrari 4 ways just to show they are.
I never knew that. That's something new you just taught me. Something new I just learned.
That's a big thing, I guess, down in Orange County in LA. I didn't even know that, right? And I met somebody who's got friends that do that, and it's a very popular thing.
I don't want to cut you off, but something else I just learned. Do you know that there's apartments here in San Jose? They designed to look like you're in a private jet for content?
Yes.
You knew about I just found that out.
I know there's one in San Jose, but I knew LA had one for a while.
Yeah.
So I did know about the LA one. But so right. So I'm like, I don't want to send this message to my son or my nieces, my nephews, And so if you guys are gonna celebrate me, then let's celebrate the work and the things I did for the last 10 years. Like the car, I could have had the car a long time ago, but I chose not to. And that's hard. It's hard when you can do those things, but you choose to do the things that you know are better for you or that are smarter, instead of doing that just so I can show everybody else, look at me, I have this Ferrari. And so that was the first thing. There was a second thing that you were asking me that I was going to tell you about, but I wanted to address that first because that was a big deal to me. That, hey, like a lot of people think I just came up right now. Like I've had money for quite a long time.
They don't know, bro. They don't know. I know.
Yeah.
I know you could have got it years ago because you talked to me about it. I remember you were kind of contemplating it.
And it was. And it's hard because, man, I love that stuff. I really do. So, and I went through a phase in my life in my mid-20s when I was making pretty good money. But a lot of the things, and by the way, here's another thing that I'll tell you, like, that's helped me with this, because this was a struggle for me. A lot of the stuff I would do, it was to show everybody else that I made it. It wasn't truly for myself. So I have a couple exercises that I do whenever I make a purchase or I do anything now. So first exercise is I never make a purchase the same day that I decided I wanted to make a purchase. I always spend 24 hours. So like I'll even be online. I'm about to buy some watch or buy some shit. I'll put it in the cart. And then I say to myself, okay, if you still want this tomorrow, you can have it, Adam. 9 times out of 10, believe it or not, I don't even buy it. I realized that it was just that I had an impulse at that time. I want to do it. And so that's it. The second thing I do as an exercise is, okay, if I'm going to go buy this thing, do I have a desire right away to present it, to show it, to tell everybody? And if I do, then maybe it's not really for me. Maybe it's for everybody else. Maybe I'm buying it because I want everybody else to see, and it's not truly to fulfill me. And so that's an exercise that I always do. And the cars, man, that's me, man. And I love that my wife recognized it. She's like, I love seeing you in your car because you could be all by yourself and you had a big ass grin on your face. She goes, I watch you in the camera when you get out there and you're washing in. I could just see how happy you are. And it's for me. Nobody knows about it. No one sees it. It is a big deal to me. And I do love cars, and I've been in them since I was a kid and stuff like that. And so that's important to me, right? Is to practice that exercise, because a lot of the things that we do many times is driven by our insecurities. Mine were, right? My insecurities were I didn't have, I came from nothing, and then I finally had something. And then a lot of behaviors I did were to show everybody else versus truly fulfilling who I am. Where I'm at now in my life is I'm really trying to design everything around first of all, I'm in a place of gratitude. So I'm very grateful for everything that I've been through, everybody that I know that's helped me along the way. And I'm at a place in my life where I can give back. I can spend time with people I love. And that's a major, major focus. And my biggest goal right now is really shaping and designing my life, my business life, around my lifestyle and the things that I love and the people that I love, and trying to give back to a lot of that stuff. So we've shifted to a 3-day work week, right? So I only work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday now. And it's made it a little stressful and hectic because that's a lot of work to fit into 3 days, but we're getting by. And so it opens up 4 days for me to do stuff. And I'm really trying to make an effort to do more stuff with my family and my son. And so that's been a major focus, is shaping the business and the ways that I make money around the things that I love. The most recent one I shared with you that I haven't shared with anybody else is car. I am very passionate about cars.
Touche.
So I want to build a community around cars. And my goal right now is to just do that, right? Just build a community around cars because I love doing it anyways. I'm passionate about it and it sounds like fun to me. And normally when I approach things with that attitude, I can normally turn it into some sort of a business. I have no idea what that'll look like. I've dabbled with some thoughts, like maybe it's Turo. Maybe I start a car club. Maybe I do some sort of affiliate deals with some companies. Maybe I start like a YouTube channel where I test drive cars and people let me test drive sick cars. I don't know.
My boys do that online. American Musclehead and Classes Daily. American Musclehead is plugged in. He gets to test drive a lot of shit before he even hits the fucking market, bro.
I know. That sounds like a lot of fun to me right now.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in that. I'm not married to exactly what it's looked like. I'm open to what it might play out to be. But I'm spending time doing things that I really love to do, and I'm really into, building the business around things. So one of the most challenging things that I have today with the size of the businesses that we have now is that there's always an opportunity to make more money. And a guy like me who likes to make money, it can be very attractive to be like squirrel, 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 and always oh, that's a great idea. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
And So I'm trying to take my time as things approach me to like really evaluate, okay, how does this fulfill me? How does this fit into the things that I say are most important to me, right? My family, my friends, the stuff I love to do, my son especially. Like, how does that fit into that dynamic? And does it disrupt that? And I'm at a place financially where no amount of money is going to change that for me. At least for me, okay, I reached a level of finances where I don't need any more. I set up and I spent a long time waiting on all those toys that my family set up. So if I die tomorrow, my son and my wife are taken care of. Like, they'll be fine. She wouldn't have to work. All she'd have to do is raise my son. And like, I set that up with investments and insurance and everything so that I feel safe as a father. I feel good. They're going to be okay. And so now everything that I do now is like, yeah, it's about filling my cup, man. And a lot of that has to do with giving, because I've learned that as I've gotten older too, is that as fun as it is to buy, to get things, to win, to do all that stuff like that, it's really rewarding too, to be able to give back and to do things for others. And so maybe that's what the car community is. Maybe there's some way I can give to others. Like, who knows, like what it ends up. But that's kind of what's on the radar now, is like kind of hustling around that to see what I could do with it. So, and
let me tell you something, because I belong to the car community, been for a long time, and you don't know who you're gonna meet. What I love about the car community, man. And we recently were at a car show, car meet together in Morgan Hill. Just the love of the community. It doesn't matter what ethnicity. Yeah. It doesn't matter what race. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter your politics. We all come together for the love of the game, and I love that. You can tell everybody's in a good mood, happy. You see it. Yeah. We all get along. There's no bullshit, and that's what I love about the car community. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet and open up new doors. I'm constantly love meeting new people, man. I'm a people person, bro. My social battery is high.
Me too.
I love networking. We're the same. One and the same.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyment.
And I think it does. It checks a lot of those boxes. Like, I like community. I like people. I love cars. Like, I love networking. It's kind of a lot of that all in one. And so, yeah, I think the back half of my journey, I see myself doing stuff like that, continuing to build businesses, because I like to build businesses. I really do enjoy that. But keeping it structured around the things that I say are most important to me, right? And remembering that, because again, it could be really easy to get distracted by just always making more money. And luckily I have a good wife who saw that in me early on too, and made the comment, like, I remember when she said this to me, like, are you sure like it's ever going to be enough, or will you always like want the next level, want the next level, want the next level? When will you ever be satisfied? And I said, no, I don't think I'm like that. I think I have a plan. I think I have a vision for the life that I want, and I'm on a mission to get there. And then I think when I do get there, I'll evaluate the balance that I have and make sure that I don't ever lose sight of that, because I do know that you can just keep chasing shiny objects and the next level, and there's plenty of levels to this game.
Plenty.
That it never runs out if that becomes your North Star, and I don't want that to be my North Star. But at the same time, I can appreciate all that stuff, and I like bougie shit. I like doing cool things. I like cool cars and watches, and I like all that stuff. And I think there's a way to be able to be open and honest with that, enjoy those things, while simultaneously still being a great father, a great husband, a present father and husband, and brother, and family, son, and then really putting a lot of energy and effort into all those things. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now, is figuring out how to balance all of it really well. And I think I'm doing all right now. At least it feels good where I'm at right now.
You sound like you're grounded.
I feel that way.
And you sound like you never lose sight of who you are and where you come from, which is good. A lot of people do. They blow up and they lose sight. They get caught up in the money. I lost sight of who I was when I was chasing bread. I was out there partying, chasing a high, and traveling back and forth from New York to Miami, San Francisco, you name it. I did it all back then.
Yeah.
But damn, man, this podcast was heat, man. I wish we could go on for hours and hours, but we'll cut it off now, because we're talkers and we'll go for hours, but it's heat, man. You drop some gems, and these listeners are going to love it, and I appreciate you coming on, brother.
I appreciate you too. I've always enjoyed watching your guys' journey, and I love seeing you continue to kill it and everything that you do. And we'll do it again. We'll circle back in a little bit. We'll see. Hopefully the audience enjoys it. I'll make sure to push it out on my end. We'll see how. Hopefully, I'm very competitive, by the way, when I do stuff like this. So my goal is to be like the best downloaded interview you guys have done. So hopefully I can do that.
So far, it's 8,000. My boy, Phil Behol. Let's see if we can surpass that.
All right, we'll see.
I know you like that. You love challenges.
I'm competitive like that. So.
Yes, sir. Let's do it. We'll circle back soon, and thank you guys for listening. And Peace out, homies.